Alright, this is Chat UTD and my preview of the Fulham game tomorrow in the FA Cup. Before we get to that though, it would be remiss of me not to talk about Roy Keane's outburst regarding Bruno Fernandes. It's a weird one because Roy Keane's my favourite ever United player and Bruno Fernandes is my favourite current United player. What I loved about Keane as a player, aggression, very, very straight, to the point, demanded the best of himself and everybody else, almost hostile on the football pitch. He often uses the expression going to war, and that's what it was like. And I was privileged enough to have a season ticket when he played for us and watch him up close. One of the most influential players United have had, and brilliant, brilliant player, standard bearer. As a pundit, I love the same sort of stuff about him. Again, very straight, very direct, sometimes controversial, particularly when he's talking about United. I think he talks about the standards needing to be higher, wanting the basics right. So I don't just respect him, I love the guy. My favourite ever United player, as I said. But, and absolutely he's entitled to his opinion. I think his opinion on Fernandes, first of all, I think it's wrong. I disagree with him, which I'm going to come to in a minute. But the way in which he expressed that opinion, for me, was really disappointing. As someone who loves the guy, I think he was hateful, spiteful, resentful, vengeful. I don't know what his problem is with Bruno, or if he just got out the wrong side of the bed. But he went too far for me. And there's many problems at United. There's been so many. He used the word bluffers. There's been so many bluffers at United over the last few years, and I could name a whole team of them. But the ones that spring to my mind straight off the bat are Pogba, Rashford, Di Maria, Sanchez. I'm sure there's loads more. Bruno Fernandes is not a bluffer. Bruno Fernandes is one of the few players over the last few years that does what he's been asked to do. He was brought to Manchester United to score goals and assist goals, and he does that. He's the captain because he's the best player in the team, and he is the leader of that team. You might not like his style of leadership, but he is the leader of that team. And he does give instructions to players. He does try and rally the troops. He's like Roy Keane mentioned Tony Adams. No, he's not Tony Adams. He's not Roy Keane. But the top 5 or 6 clubs in the country don't have Tony Adams or Roy Keanes anymore. The game's changed. So I think to pick him out as he did and go to town on him as he did, I don't think it's right, and I think the way he did it was wrong. And the reason I'm talking a bit more about this is twofold. One, I think there is a narrative around Fernandes amongst our fan base that I don't agree with. But also there is a narrative around ex-players and the influence they can have on the current team. And I've never really subscribed to that. I've always thought, look, the team is poor because of post-Ferguson 10, 11 years of absolute incompetence from the owners. That's why we're so poor. It's not about ex-players. They can help or hinder, but they have a very minimal impact, I would say. But when I see our ex-captain behaving like that and being so hostile towards our current captain, I think it's wrong. And he can express his opinion, and as I say, I disagree with his opinion. But the way he did it was really disappointing for someone who loves him like I do. And just thinking about Keane, he seems incredibly resentful to United, and I think it ended badly, but it ended badly because of Ferguson and Gill. They have peripheral roles at United now. Whether Keane likes it or not, he spent 12 and a half years at our club, and he's a club legend. And a couple of weeks ago on Stick to Football, I think Ian Wright, just in passing, it might have been Gary Neville, said, well, you obviously support United. And Keane, again, very aggressively snapped back, I don't support United. I think I've said it on here before. I went to an audience with Roy Keane in Bournemouth just before the lockdowns for 2020, and I got to ask him a question. I met him, had my picture taken with him, asked him a question. I basically, top and bottom of the question was, do you still support United in your quiet moments? And he gave this long meandering answer. At the end of which he said, it doesn't ruin my Chinese on a Saturday night if United lose. But he said he was fond of them, but just like he's fond of Nottingham Forest and he's fond of Celtic. Well, you play for United for 12.5 years. You didn't play for Nottingham Forest for that long. You didn't play for Celtic for hardly any time. I think he holds a lot of resentment towards United. And in Ten Hag's first season, we played Arsenal and we won, and at Old Trafford, and it was a really euphoric atmosphere around United, around Old Trafford. And Keane was on the pitch with Paul Merson and the Sky Sports guys, and quite a lot of the fans had stayed behind. It was quite a good, buoyant type of atmosphere, and a large number of fans, as Keane was doing the post-match analysis, started singing "Keano's fucking magic" on repeat over and over again, and it was really loud. It wasn't just a couple of hundred people; it sounded like quite a lot of people. And at first, Keane did that face, where his eyes narrow, and he looks like he wants to chin someone. He had the look of disdain on his face. Then it became a little bit more playful, where he just rolled his eyes, and then he kind of just went, look, he went like this, look, I'm on telly, like, shush, you don't be singing that. But the first thing really struck me, and people were saying, oh, he loves it really, and people say when he's really cutting about United, oh, he just wants the standards to be high. Sometimes I agree with that, but he's looking with disdain at fans that are singing his name. And Roy, whether you like us or not, show some respect. There's fans who, in their thousands, are singing your name because of how much we appreciate what you did for our club. So, if you don't have that same fondness, that's fine. Don't roll your eyes and look in disdain at us. You compare that with Cantona, who always says how special it is that United fans still sing his name and how he hopes that's always going to be the case. Cantona had 5 years at United. Keane had 12 and a half. Whether you like it or not, we're the club that you made your name at. But just to wind this part up, on Fernandes. Fernandes runs his bollocks off. Yeah, he gives the ball away, but he gives the ball away because he tries to make things happen. And I repeat the statistic I said a couple of weeks or months ago, whenever it was. In the calendar year of 2024, not one Premier League player made more goal-scoring chances than Bruno Fernandes. And he's been in a largely crap team for the time that he's been at United. And he's been the standout player all the way through. And in an era when we've had, as I say, the likes of Rashford, Pogba, Alexis Sanchez, etc., to pick on Bruno Fernandes is just absurd as far as I'm concerned. I have very high standards when I think about United players. I don't suffer fools gladly when it comes to Man United. But for me, I don't feel like he's pulling the wool over my eyes. I think he's an absolutely superb football player, and we're very, very lucky to have him. And he's our captain, and I back him 1,000,000%. And I'll be honest, Keane's gone down in my estimation a bit with the way he expressed his opinion, because there was just no need for it to be like that. It was quite hard to watch, really. Moving on. Fulham tomorrow in the FA Cup, a massive game for United. If we win, we get to the quarter-final. I think Fulham are probably slight favourites coming into it. They tend to do quite well at Old Trafford. I remember a cup game, I think it was 2 years ago. I think it was, yeah, Ten Hag was there. And they were 1-0 up and they were outplaying us. And Mitrovic went absolutely nuts and got sent off. And then Willian handled the ball on the line, and it was a penalty which made it 1-1, and they had 9 men. And we won, but we huffed and puffed even when they had 9 men, and we won 3-1 in the end, I think. But Fulham tend to enjoy their days out at Old Trafford. They tend to come and play well against us. It was a tedious game at Craven Cottage a few weeks ago, but I do, as much as it sounds crazy, I think they're probably slight favourites coming into the game. The issues we've got remain, don't they? The strikers can't score goals, the attackers don't score goals. The goalkeeper's having a hell of a time at the moment. You've got to ask serious questions about Onana. I think he's playing so badly that you look at him sometimes and go, is this sabotage? Obviously it isn't, but he's that bad that's what it can feel like. I saw him in the Champions League final for Inter Milan against City, and for me, he dictated the pace of the game as a goalkeeper. He ran the game from the back. He was amazing. His range of passing was ridiculous. I didn't really see what he was like with shot stopping because City barely laid a glove on Inter Milan, but they won 1-0. They were very lucky that evening, City. He was brilliant. And when we were confirmed to be signing him, I thought, brilliant. Ten Hag wants a ball-playing goalkeeper. Big fan of De Gea. Fantastic keeper for United, but Ten Hag wants a ball-playing goalkeeper. And Onana's got a pretty solid reputation. He's replacing one of the best shot stoppers in the modern era, who just won the Golden Glove. He doesn't save shots. His positioning is awful when it comes to when the ball's out wide. He gets lost. His geography is awful. His footing, the way he uses his feet, is awful in terms of his. I suppose like the way he sets himself up is what I'm getting at. He doesn't pass the ball. He just boots it. And this is a guy with a really good range of passing. Because I've seen it. Maybe he had better players around him at Inter Milan, perhaps that's something to do with it. But he's doing nothing. Yeah, I said about Fernandes before doing what he's been asked to do. He's been brought into the team to score goals and assist goals, and he does it prolifically in a crap team, and has done for the last 5 years. You look at Onana, what's he been brought in to do? Pass the ball out from the back, he doesn't do that. He doesn't save shots, he doesn't come for crosses. As I say, his position is awful. His feet are all wrong. You're like, I don't know if Bayindir's fit because he's been injured, but if he is fit, I think he'd be feeling quite unfortunate not to be playing at the moment, and I think that's a big issue that we've got. And another player that's come into United with a decent reputation and just flunked, and you're thinking, again, who's going to want him? So if he plays tomorrow, all eyes on him. You know, as a goalkeeper, when you're in bad form, it can snowball. I certainly hope he doesn't cost us tomorrow because it's a massive game. There's been more stuff about Garnacho this week. You know, that he went down the tunnel. Some saying that he was soaking wet. Crimea River, you know, I don't really care if you're wet. Look, just take your top off and put your training top on the bench or whatever. I don't know. But the problem is now, he's starting to get a little bit of a rep where it's not just one thing. There was the incident when Van Nistelrooy was in charge where he was feeling sorry for himself about something that had happened on social media, and United had just won, and he's stood in the centre circle looking bereft, and everyone's going and comforting him, and you know, you put it down to immaturity maybe, but it's like, it's not about you, mate. It's you're starting to see a catalogue of things with him, and for me, he's got a really high ceiling. I think he could go on and be a very special player. He could be a middle of the roader. He could fade away. All three of those options are still there with Garnacho. We haven't got many players in the team that, particularly younger players, that you would say would go on and be top players. And he's got the potential to do it, but it's just starting to look maybe like there could be a bit of an issue with his attitude. In better news, someone who's really come on recently is Xerxes, and I've noticed a big difference in his body language and his confidence. He's carrying the ball really well. He's going through 4 or 5 players at a time. Sometimes he's hanging on to it a little bit too long. Sometimes he's making the wrong choices. But his body language, as I say, is just so much better. Looks so much more confident, and makes me start to think, well, maybe that first part of his career at United was a settling in period rather than that he's just useless, which the jury was out for me. So he's improved. Has he got the physicality to be able to, and the fitness levels and the ability to play Thursday Sunday, which if we can continue in the Europa League, he's going to have to do. But he's been playing well recently. As I say, I think Fulham are slight favourites tomorrow, and I mean, I never thought I'd say that with Fulham coming to Old Trafford, but I do think they are, and it's a big game for United because the season hinges on the FA Cup and the Europa League, and we've got Fulham, then Sociedad, then Arsenal, then Sociedad, and those 3 games around the Arsenal game are bigger than the Arsenal game. and it's going to define whether or not we've got an interesting last few weeks of the season or not. Just finally, thinking of moving away from the first team, I watched the Youth Cup game last night, and what a refreshing change it was. Some of the football United played in the first half in particular was what you want a Man United team to play like. Fluid, quick, at times when they needed to be, they were quite direct, but just a real energy and dynamism. It's interesting to note they're not playing the same system that the first team play, which I thought with this, is it called the game model? The whole club's supposed to be playing the same as the first team. They're not. And the balance of the team is really good. The fullbacks look spot on. Harry Amass was really good, and there's a lad on the right hand side who's been superb in this FA Cup run, actually, in the FA Youth Cup run, should I say. They didn't have Obi Martin because I assume he's with the first team squad. They had to battle back from a deficit to win 3-2, and it was just really exciting football. It was really good to watch. You know what else stood out to me? It was an away game on a Friday night in the FA Youth Cup. We must have had at least a few hundred fans there, because I could clearly hear United fans singing an array of different songs. It was really audible. I think to myself, if we ever get this right, we're such a special club. And I know that people say that about their club, but it's an FA Youth Cup game in London on a Friday night, and you've got fans audibly singing for the majority of the game. Youth Cup games tends to be, no disrespect when I say this, but it's not your match-going fans. It's your families. There's probably a lot more. No disrespect, but there's a lot more women there. There's young kids, and you can hear that in the reaction when a goal goes in. You can hear by the roar. It's not that normal visceral guttural. Is it called guttural? Is that even a word? Guttural. Roar kind. It's not like that. It's more like that. That wasn't a very good impression. But that was like, and that's proper United away fans that were there, chanting away. Brilliant. And what a good performance. What a team they look. So you never know, do you, about players then graduating into the first team. It doesn't always work that way. It'd be lovely if some of them do. But we need something to get behind, don't we, and be proud of, and without getting carried away thinking they're going to get into the first team, then at least they're doing the business at the moment, and have got into the semi-finals of the Youth Cup, something that's always been very special to United. Just to end on a slightly personal note, we are in the process of moving house. TMI, you might say, but when I move to the new house, I'm going to have a proper, I call it a studio, it's actually an office, where I'll have some proper United memorabilia behind me. But as we've been looking through our stuff, we found this, which is my eldest son's first Man United top when he was like 8 or 9 weeks old, which is very, very special. And then I also found this, which isn't a child's top, it's something I used to hang in my car, which I think I will again. So always finding good stuff when you this is going to be up as well. That without a doubt is going up in the new studio when we move. So anyway, light-hearted end. As I said with Fernandes, for me, I think United are lucky to have him, and I think Roy Keane has not covered himself in glory at all with that ridiculous rant that he went on. Love to see him show that same passion towards Rashford when they were speaking about him a couple of weeks ago, but he's immune to criticism, isn't he? Glazers out.